resolution in order. And they have already gone to, I believe, Tillamook County, and then they are presenting to Columbia County as well. And so they just wanted to, get the support of the counties. There's really, the Human Services Advisory Committee, when they had it presented to them, there were some things that they had concerns about, like, as you said, it's a big document. And so going through it, one of the things that came up was suicide prevention. They want 100% suicide prevention. And the HSAC was like, well, that seems really lofty, and it seems like you would be kind of putting a lot of pressure on, if something happens and somebody does commit suicide, then are you saying that they failed? Well, no, but do you want to say, well, we want to see a 90% success rate as far as suicide prevention? No. So while it's a lofty goal, it's ultimately what you want to achieve. So they just kind of vetted some of those questions from HSAC, and then they asked that this be brought to the board. And hopefully they'll be able to be here to kind of present or not present, but just be present at the board meeting, because this is just so you guys have an opportunity to ask questions, and then the actual resolution in order will come at the next board meeting. Yes.
So if I may interpret what I'm hearing, they've been awarded this contract, right?
Yes.
But they're asking us to write a letter of whatever it is that you said.
No. Support?
Letter, what it was, the support that they want. That's to ensure that. What is the term that you asked?
So they're not asking you for a letter of support.
They're asking for what?
They're not asking for anything. Well, I shouldn't say they're not asking for anything. They just want you to adopt a resolution in order saying that,
So the resolution is so that we acknowledge that we have looked at this.
Yes.
And it's our opportunity to give some input.
Yes.
But as time goes forward, will they be continuing to come to us and we continue to have input?
Yes. And they recently hired a local person to represent. So the Columbia Pacific CCO represents Clatsop, Tillamook, and Columbia counties. And they travel amongst the three counties, and they're regularly and they have different representatives who come, like Mimi Haley has come before you, and Leslie Ford has come before you. And then they recently hired Brooke Stanley. She used to work for the the Watershed Council. And so she is now working for Columbia Pacific CCO, and she is a local representative here in Clatsop County. And so part of the CCO's job and part of what came out of this RFP is they really need to be showing more local presence, because that's the whole point of them. Essentially, the CCO is a insurance agent for Medicare clients. And so this is them.
Medicare and Medicaid?
Medicare. There's, I don't
Medicare
know.
is old people.
Medicaid, thank you, sorry. Yes, Medicaid, thank you. I apologize.
There's another way of phrasing it. Older people?
Aging people.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, seasoned, yes.
From the youngest member of the
So
block.
are they going to be, is Ms. Stanley going to be on the health and, what advice?
The Human Services Advisory, no, she.
Safety or anything?
No.
She'll be on something I think that's more important, which is charging.
Yes, yeah, she may come and present some different updates and stuff to the HSAC, kind of depends on the various topics, but she has been invited to be on the host committee with the Astoria, the homelessness task force, and so she is starting to kind of reach out to those different entities like CHART and such, but the HSAC is a board-appointed committee and not that she's not a county resident, but it's a board-appointed position that is representative of people who don't necessarily have a specific purpose. That's a really bad way to put it.
Tell you, I wanted to ask you about that, because I was kind of surprised at the HSAC resolution here. Because that's not how I see their role. I mean, I thought that their role was to dispense grant funds that the county offers.
They do that as well.
But as well, I guess, so I guess I
They're
need to
advisory.
understand better about what their role is in all this.
And I'm concerned, if I can just piggyback on that before you respond, so you can cover both of them. I'm concerned about inappropriate delegation, because I really want the governing body to be hearing this information directly. I'm not interested in having it filtered through a subordinate body. I want us to be hearing.
And we can make that arrangement and ask them to come and present. They had just asked HSAC to show support, and so they came and presented to HSAC.
I guess I'm concerned that they're not here tonight.
Yeah.
I certainly expect, not that we
Oh.
would love seeing you.
Yeah, that's fine, and I can make sure that they be here for the board meeting to answer any questions that you might have.
Because I seem to recall when we voiced our support for their getting this contract.
We didn't voice our support for Columbia Pacific CCO to get this contract. We voiced our support for a single CCO.
And
that's right.
One entity.
That's right.
And
That's
that
right.
was the idea.
That's
So
right.
we
That
were
was our
very
formal
careful
thing.
to be, yes.
Yes.
But, but part of what was a little different this time was that the Public Health Department actually negotiated part of what that final contract was supposed to look like. And I don't see anything about that. And I thought that in the contract with them, we were asking specifically for periodic reviews.
The county doesn't have a contract with the CCO.
No, but they had to, I mean, the Public Health Department reviewed.
The Public
negotiated
Health
contract.
Department was a part of developing this, but the county Public Health Department does not have a contract with the CCO.
No, I realize that, but I thought there was supposed to be a role. I thought that we specifically asked for some kind of role.
And they did. They played a significant role in developing this regional health improvement
And I
plan.
mean from going forward, though.
I
I thought, just as we did with CBH,
Uh-huh.
where we asked for periodic reviews, I thought we had done the same thing with the CCO.
Well, that's kind of the start of this, is just, they worked with the Public Health Department to develop this regional health improvement plan. And so they're asking all the counties to support the regional health improvement plan. And then moving forward, they have a lot of data points and those 8 areas that they're trying to focus on. And so they will be presenting to the boards saying, hey, this is kind of where we're at. But that's not a contractual obligation between the county and the CCO. That's what they need to do for the state, because this is only a 5-year contract with the state. And so if they're going to want to be able to hopefully, renew their contract after these next 5 years, they're going to have to make sure that they're doing all the things that they promised that they would do. But that's a agreement between the state and the CCO.
But the governing body of the county is the Board of Commissioners, and we are the Public Health Authority. So I want to make sure that we have a direct connection. So I think you and I are aligned in that.
Yeah, what I would say, if I could, Commissioners, that I think that including the Human Services Advisory Council probably makes some sense, but I think what we need to do is also focus back to the board and have the board hear the same information, because they probably value what the Human Services Advisory Committee's perspectives are, but we will have them come back to your board
On a regular basis.
as a
that there should
venue
be some-
on a regular basis, and we can talk with them about that, make sure that happens. Because what the goal is to have discussion, dialogue, and share information. And so that's why, to Commissioner Sullivan's point, we will put this out there, because this is a lot of really good data that really needs to be shared with the community, because I think a lot of people would benefit from it, whether they're grant writing or other things. And honestly, I just think putting a lot of our data out there and making it really accessible is part of our public trust role. So we will figure out how we can do that better, but this is certainly one piece.
And there's many layers of people working towards good health in whatever direction it is that would maybe interface with this in some way.
Absolutely.
Has everybody here, all the other commissioners, gone to a chart meeting? Has anybody gone to a chart meeting?
I went to one meeting where these data, or one similar to them, were provided, and I asked, how can we get them in front of the governing body? So I can't, it was too long ago. Being a seasoned person, I can't exactly remember the title of the meeting, but I did, maybe.
Because the chart, unfortunately, I've got a conflict with the chart group, but as your delegate to the Public Health Department, I have been attending their meetings, and I'm very impressed by what a robust group this is. I think this is a group that really, basically what they've tried to do is to reach out to every entity that provides, has a stakeholder in the public health system. And I'm really impressed by the fact that they get together once a month and they talk about each person's initiative, and I've learned a great deal there. And I'd almost like to ask our public health department to give us a status update every now and again about what CHART is doing, because it's a collaborative, it's the kind of thing that I think is very appropriate for the county to be sponsoring. And it's really, and it's a little bit, one of the things that struck me, because I had got a copy of this report a long time ago, maybe it was through CHART, and I was kind of amazed that we hadn't had a more robust discussion about this data. And I do have some quick.
Yeah.
But I'd just be interested in just getting started here on this particular subject right here.
Well, so I was just going to kind of go through in regards to some of the information specific to Clatsop County. And so, like I said, there were the 5 health agencies that were involved, and the Public Health Department and Columbia Memorial and Providence Seaside were those that are within Clatsop County. And so they were seeking input from the community members who are experiencing specifically those health inequities. And so, and just trying to get a clear understanding of all the public health indicators that are involved. Some of the things that they had talked about, if you go to the page discussing the social detriments of health is, page 14.
The trouble is that there are 2 page numbers on everything,
Oh, it's page 14 of the packet.
which means the square guys.
Yes, yeah. So in regards to this one, kind of the things that have an impact on your health are the way that, you're born, you live, you learn, you work, you play. Those all affect your health outcomes. And so having a better understanding of those is critical to understanding your community's overall health. And so one of the things that the county, we have an ongoing problem with is our median household income as well as our housing situation. And so for Clatsop County, we have a lower median household income, while it's not the lowest of the 3 counties, but we do have the highest rent costs within the county. And then we also have within those 3 counties, we have the highest experience of homeless individuals, which is 6 times the average of the state of Oregon. So those are things, that are going to have a significant impact on all of these things, of the 8 factors that they're kind of focusing on in this health improvement plan. Yeah,
Can I interrupt?
yeah, please interrupt throughout the way.
One of the things that I was a little disappointed in was and I actually sat down with an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, in figure 4. Those are not, that's not an adequate presentation of the data. If on a scale from 1 to 988, 831 would not be there. It would be significantly to the right. So, we need to hold these people to account for presentation of data.
Maybe a smaller bar, is what you're
It would be a
larger.
longer bar. It would be a longer
Not
bar.
that much
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, so there was just a little bit of that I thought, you know, if I went public with something, I mean, one of the reasons that I like this is that it gives, you know, me, the data freak, a lot of good stuff to chew on. But I wouldn't go public with this because that's not an adequate representation of comparative analysis. And is there anybody else on the commission who sits on a board that is this tri-county area, Columbia?
Yeah.
What
Community
other
Action
groups?
Team, Colpac, Northwest Act,
Okay, so those are all these three counties?
well, yeah.
Okay.
And AOC has those three and one more, but.
I was going to say, because a couple, I mean, I sit on two boards that one of them is just those three counties, and another one, of course, the workforce one that has too many, 8 counties or something. But, so to me, the comparison, understanding the community health indicators and characteristics, income, housing, et cetera, of those three counties is really important. Because a lot of the decisions that we make, I often sit down and take the population of each county as a percentage to look at how we are siphoning our resources regionally. And so these numbers are very important. I mean, they're really, it would be really nice to come up with just a little bit of a better presentation that was a little bit more factual, statistically
See, and I
correct.
was just impressed that it was color ink. I thought, wow, color ink, this is pretty good.
Well, see, for people in the tourism industry, that's what you care about.
And both are true.
So I don't want to, I don't want to take up too much time if you do have a lot of questions. So if you would prefer, if you've gone through the document and you want to ask questions, would you prefer to do that? So that way we can make sure that we answer them and,
I would, because I have
Okay.
a couple of questions.
okay.
One of the things that is most heartbreaking to me is children.
Mhm.
So when we look at page 17, table 1, 11th graders who ate less than they felt they should because there wasn't enough money to buy food. I mean, I just broke down in tears when I read that. And farther into it, when we talk about suicide, and this is a theme I have because I came from the Portland metropolitan area, the suicide rates among youth who are sexual minority students, and it's off the charts. And I'd like to see that highlighted in some fashion because I think those youth are more at risk. So hungry children, at-risk children in other ways. I'd like to have us, I don't know how we do that. I mean, we have juvenile probation, but we don't, as a county, have a structure to highlight the developmental needs of children. That's one of the things we're seeing with the child care task force. I mean, it's an at-risk population, just as a population, developmentally speaking.
I'm sorry, the suicide for children, which demographic was it?
LGBTQ.
Oh, okay.
The good thing is the county is doing better than others. And it's still not, where we want it to be, but educational attainment.
In regards to, well, that was one
High
thing,
school
as far as our graduation rate is a little bit lower than others. Our Clatsop County graduates only 69% of our students.
Oh, I was reading that incorrectly.
Yeah. So we're on the
So
lower
we're on
end
the
of the
low
spectrum.
end.
Mhm.
I read that wrong.
Yeah, we're below the state average of 77%.
Oh, I was looking at the post-secondary.
Oh,
degree.
yeah.
That's what I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
looking
as far as post-secondary,
Yeah.
we are further along, but our graduation rates for our high school graduates throughout the county is
She was looking at
significantly lower.
colors.
Yeah.
at. Well, I was looking at, I was just looking at the post-secondary and I was thinking,
Yeah,
but that's different.
yeah. So another area that I just wanted to kind of highlight was the causes of death within the county. And so the leading cause, page 25. The leading cause of death within Clatsop County, well, all 3 counties, is cancer, and it attributes to 25% of the deaths. And a lot of these are things that are not necessarily 100% preventable, but a lot of them are preventable because some of these things in relation to tobacco use and cholesterol, those sorts of things, as far as your diet that you're eating, are things that are more preventable. But, that's not to say that people who don't have those things also don't get cancer, but still so it's again, kind of access to the education piece as to the prevention of tobacco use, the prevention of alcohol and drug abuse, and then just the,
addressing
and then,
risk factors.
exactly, and then also in regards to the education about nutrition, like the SNAP benefits and such.
And the socioeconomic stress of the poverty is also, they didn't correlate that in here in the same way that I've seen it done in other places. But, I mean, tobacco, alcohol, and obesity from eating the wrong kinds of foods are often related to coping with stress that has economic foundations. So
That's right.
We are fortunate here that we have access to a lot of fresh produce. Safeway, Fred Meyer.
If you can afford it.
Our food banks also are very big
I was just
on,
gonna say that.
very big on growing some of their own food and getting those fresh foods from the various
And I
grocery
think
stores.
The North Coast Food Web
Yeah.
that works on educating in the schools and in the community about good eating habits is a real positive thing.
do we have a chart on the Mary Ann Meyer, Mary Blake effect? Is that?
And they did the Northwest, or the Extension Office did just get a grant for $25,000 from the CCO in regards to helping with food education.
Wonderful.
So,
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, because we have at least 1, maybe 2 generations that don't know how to cook. They just know how to get something from the frozen food section.
And part of that, I think, is the number of people that have to work more than one job.
Right,
And so it's
that's
not
right. So
realistic
then that
to
goes
sit
back
down
to
and
the economic factor. I really, this lung and bronchus?
bronchitis, bronchus, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that our health department is so aggressive about tobacco. That's really,
And I don't think that I highlighted it, but, they did start seeing decreases in tobacco use amongst teenagers, but now with the vaping, it has risen significantly again, so,
That's what makes sense.
yeah. So in regards to another section that kind of is common within our county is the mental health issue, and with page 2039, sorry, thank you. And so the availability of mental health providers to the total adult population in Oregon is, overall in Oregon, it's much better than for our region. Unfortunately, in our tri-county region, we do have a significant problem trying to access mental health providers. No disrespect to CBH, because we appreciate the work that they do, but I think it was evident when we went out for an RFP, and they were the only mental health provider that submitted something. And so, and I know CBH themselves have a difficult time, rural counties within Oregon have difficult times finding psychiatrists to help. And so they've done a lot of work in trying to find alternatives such as telepsychiatry. There's pluses and minuses to that, but in relation to being able to try and have more accessible access to psychiatrists, it beats, having somebody only being here once a week. You can then access them on a more regular basis through the telepsychiatry system. Yeah.
I had the opportunity to talk to one of the psychiatrists that were before Amy Baker took over and CBH was having so much trouble. And I was able to talk to the woman who was here. She was certified, she worked in pediatrics and also adults. And she said one of the things that she'd like to do was kind of like a prescription, is to send families into the parks to get out some outdoor time and So I think there are ways that we can help with mental health, and that maybe we can have special passes or to parks, or maybe we can, work with municipalities to have lower level, if kids can get active and be in athletics, but maybe their family can't afford it, or maybe we can, there's different ways that we can support the overall health of someone by, making sure there's band in every school, making sure there's arts in every school, making sure there's some, those are things that the different elected officials and, bodies can help with perhaps. It can't just, by the time you have a child in front of a, needing to see a psychiatrist, sometimes it's just like the risk factors to cancer. If there's ways that we as a community can mitigate stress, it will also help head off some serious mental health issues.
I agree with you, and also, getting out in nature and also connecting with other people in the community makes a big difference. And quite often, people who don't have the means to do that are at a loss to be able to do that. Transportation can be part of it, all kinds of things. I don't know what the county can do, but I agree with you. I think that's
And the other thing is.
something to look at.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Janet Hobakia was with Golby, senior psychiatric. We haven't met in about a year or so, but we got together with other people that have, because with the Northwest Senior Disabilities Board work that I do, that Clatsop County has, at that time, had the highest suicide completion among senior men in the state. And we worked towards getting a men's support group at the Astoria Senior Center. I don't know where that work is now, but that's another example of, how can the community help people, they know that isolation is not a good, long-term isolation is not good for anyone's mental health. So how can we be aware of the community at large and bring folks that are isolated back in? So it goes on both sides of the spectrum. It goes to children, and it goes to seniors, and it goes to young parents that are feeling isolated, with no help for that. So it's good that they're looking at all these things.
So I just wanted to kind of wrap things up in regards to what their priorities.
Just one more thing. So thinking about what you both said, when we have countywide electeds meetings, maybe this could be a topic, because I think you're right, it crosses all jurisdictional boundaries. And it's a common concern. So I don't know if you're getting a basket list of topics for these countywide electeds meetings, but if I can offer you one, I think that makes sense, what you're saying, and that would be a way to highlight it and maybe have a more concerted response that covered more of our people.
I think even having the CCO present to the city and county
Yeah.
electeds group wouldn't be a bad thing, because then it would spur these kinds of conversations.
Exactly.
So,
And I think to be fair, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm sure that schools have scholarships. I know that parks have all that sort of thing. So maybe it's more of our task to get the message out there that these things are already in place, and you're welcome to come and use them, and we want you to come and use them.
I will say, just because I sit on the board, but I know that the different sports associations, like the soccer association, they have scholarships for families, and so people are able to play, and then they also offer like free shoes and stuff like that. And then in regards to the national parks, they do, for fourth graders, they give free passes to, I don't know what makes them choose fourth grade, but they do hand out park passes there as well. And then, for instance, the Astoria School District this year waived all athletic fees, which on average is $125 per sport. And so, for instance, the middle school cross-country team had approximately 40 kids participating. And I have no idea if that's because there was just a lot of kids interested in cross-country this year, or if it's because the sports fee was waived. And so I know that the schools and the local sports associations do have opportunities, so it might just be,
Which all the
And-
schools could do that.
and I
also
think it
maybe-
comes down to budgets, though, because
Yeah.
that.
Maybe
that-
we can work on transportation, special buses that can get kids here and there in a certain, I don't know, I mean, you can dream all day long, but
Well,
it's
you know
a community
something
issue.
that we don't do, we don't offer, do we? I don't think, relief for any of our parks fees.
I don't know, well, like the Astoria parks don't have fees.
Well,
And-
we do, I mean the state, I mean.
Oh, the
I mean,
state, I-
No, I mean the county parks. The county.
Oh, as far as the parking?
Yeah, I mean, we have user fees, and we're talking about,
Yeah, Cullowhee and John Day are the only two county parks that have
but we're
parking
talking about,
fees.
but we're talking about the fact that we're gonna have to do that in Clutchie as well, because of the increased usage, et cetera. So it seems that maybe one of the things that we need to consider is with our parks, doing some kind of relief for income, certain.
Maybe a budget discussion, maybe when we're looking at our budget next year, we could have a scholarship fund for community mental health purposes or something that, just something.
Cool, that's cool.
So
Make
just.
it a priority.
Yeah, so just to kind of summarize what their priority areas are for improving health, well-being, and resiliency for individuals in the communities is community resilience, trauma-informed care, and
Where
sorry,
are
this
we?
is on page 43. Primary care, access to primary care, access to behavioral health, access to oral health and dental care, social safety nets, chronic disease prevention, and suicide prevention, and housing. And so the promotion of health and wellness are the foundation to all of these goals that they have. And so that's kind of back to the resolution and order. That's what they're asking the board to just kind of support those priority areas that it is that they're trying to focus on. And the focus areas that I was referring to on page 43, they then get into those starting on page 44 and going through what their timeline is for the next year as far as trying to move through and come to these goals, and then just kind of like what their rationale is, what the goal is, how they expect to get access to this care. And so that goes through the rest of the document.
So before, was there an emphasis on oral and dental?
That, it's part of the overall.
But before.
Yeah, there was behavioral, and then there was also dental and medical.
Okay,
It
and what
just,
about housing? That's new, isn't it?
I believe housing is new.
I remember my days of, I mean, I think one thing that we could look at as a board also is to look at in what are there upcoming laws or something that would support some of, in a way to get help from the federal government or state government to support some of these goals. I know I read a book about dental, teeth. It was, the name of the book was Teeth or something, but it was, to me, it's such a good case of, if you don't have good oral health,
Right.
that's the setup of further health problems.
I think-
And even having somebody in the emergency room. So I know that there are many people thinking about this. Is there ways that we can support as a county to support initiatives that will help all of this?
I think one way to get federal support of all of this is to really promote the census, because a lot of the way that you get your federal funding is through your census numbers. And so if we can make sure that every resident, every person in Clatsop County is being counted, then that will help towards getting funding for a lot of these different initiatives.
That's a very good point. And also for veterans to get the
Their
money that-
benefits.
that they have coming to them. So maybe that's something that we should discuss, is how do we support the census? Because I agree with you, that's vitally important.
I've been
Well,
hoping to hear from the staff about
Yeah, if I could real quickly, we just sent a staff into a conference for census support, and we will be convening a group that would help us to do the full count. And so there is a group of folks who we'll be networking with to support those efforts. So, because the goal is to get to a complete count. And
Is
so
it going to be one of those complete count committees?
it's a
That's what-
complete count committee.
And that's,
So-
and that's the count on a particular day, so will they be,
No,
are they
it's-
interfacing?
not
You're
today.
thinking of the homelessness count.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, no,
This
this is the complete count of your,
So this happens over a period.
You can do by mail and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's mail, electronically,
I was just thinking that
canvassing.
we, you know, our population balloons at certain times of the year, but that's different, that's where you live.
yeah.
It's where you live,
Okay.
and they focus on April 1st.
Yes, April 1st is no
One of-
joke.
One of
That's
the-
what their
Yeah,
slogan
one of the
is.
barriers to getting an accurate census is there are people who just say, I don't want anything to do with government, I won't talk to you. I don't know what the county can do, but if we can get the word out about how important it is that we get accuracy so that we can benefit our schools and all the services that are given.
And that'll affect us for the next 10 years.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of people, and there could be even more now, that are just saying, I don't want you to talk, I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want to give you information. And that's very detrimental.
That's why involving the Hispanic Council, I think, will be critical for any kind of a complete count.
And they will be
initiative.
part of
And
the
also
committee.
involving the schools. I think
Yes.
that in previous censuses, there hasn't been enough proactive support among the schools. So I'd really love to see a very robust initiative on our part.
We will come back and brief your board in a work session about how that committee is being structured and who is on it, just to
Okay.
get your feedback before we get too far down.
Yes,
And I-
because it's happening very soon.
I'll bring something up at the Northwestern Disability Board.
I wanted to stop us on one page here. If we look on page 44, this wagon wheel diagram, figure 45, we're going to be doing strategic planning as a board. I hope that this
Yeah.
icon comes with us to that on page 44, because it has a lot to do with other aspects of county services. And I think I like the fact that it moves in so many ways. I love all the little arrows and colors and all that. So I hope that helps going forward. Thank you. Thanks for the.
That's an excellent suggestion.
Anything you forgot?
I'm sure there is, but
Having you
I can't
have something to
remember.
say.
All right. So unless there's more questions, I think we can take a little break and then move into our regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Please join us for the flag salute. We have the roll, please.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Here.
Commissioner Webb?
Here.
Commissioner Nebeker?
Here.
Commissioner Aquila?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Next, we come to the agenda approval.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Agenda is approved. Now is the time for business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 3-minute presentation about, about any item on the agenda except public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. First, we have John Reichel. Please come forward, state your name and address.
Chair Nether, Commissioners, my name is John Reichel. I reside at 37102 Jurgensen Lane out in Olney, rural Astoria. I'm here tonight and thank you for the opportunity to speak, to advocate for your last item on the agenda tonight for the appointment of Matt Phillips as the new sheriff at the retirement of Sheriff Bergen at the end of the year. I've known Matt for many years. I've known him when he came to work at the sheriff's office as a teenager in a cadet role. He really put in a lot of effort, and his brother joined him a few years later. Matt has always had a lot of compassion for doing the job and for taking care of the community. He was in that role until he got old enough to be a reserve. Then he went on to college, got his degree, and he has never stopped his education in that. He has been willing to fill in any role that he needed for leadership in a sheriff's office. With the decision by the chief deputy, the undersheriff, who's normally the next in line, not to pursue this position. He wants to remain where he is. I don't think you could find a more qualified person to do this job, to do the transition from one sheriff retiring to another one taking over. You're faced right now with a multi-million-dollar project with the jail, which he has taken a lead role in, and the implementation of public policy and standing operating orders to bring them together is very important to how the new jail gets implemented. And I think he's the right person to carry you through that process. I can't say enough good about him. He's been an outstanding deputy. He's been an outstanding lieutenant jail commander. And thank you very much for letting me speak.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
So do you prefer to be addressed as former Sheriff Reichel or Commissioner Reichel or Sheriff Commissioner Reichel or?
I like John.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence and the wisdom and experience of your remarks.
I also want to assure you, too, that you see how tall Matt is, that, sometimes getting an appointment like this could go to their head, but I don't think the critical mass could ever reach that tall. So thank you again.
Thank you. Next, we have Frank Spence.
My name is Frank Spence. I live at 5169 Birch Street in Astoria. I'm here to support the selection nomination for Lieutenant Matt Phillips to be your sheriff. I first met Matt a little over a year and a half ago, when I decided to become involved with the county's bond issue for the new jail, the $21 million bond issue. As a former city manager and county administrator, I was familiar with the operations of jails and the importance of it. I was very disturbed as what I was reading because of jail overcrowding. The capacity was set at 60. At the time, the word was that 80% of the inmates were awaiting trial, some of them over a year. Also, because of the Kaplan capacity, there was a revolving door And that bothered me because, as we read in the paper, there are arrests, 1, 2, and 3 every day. The arrests are made not only by the sheriff's department, but by every city police department in this county, as well as the highway patrol. So I contacted Matt and said, I'd like to tour the jail so that I know what I'm talking about when I get out on the talk circuit. So he agreed, and he gave me a tour of the jail. I was very impressed when I first went in there. Very clean, very well lit, very quiet, and of course it kind of reflected Lieutenant Phillips' personality of almost being low-key, but very persuasive. I was very impressed with the operation of the jail, with what limited resources he had to work with, and he has done a great job. It is important that at this point, in appointing him sheriff, to oversee the $21 million, which is now going to $23 million renovation of the youth center into a jail. And no one is more qualified than Lieutenant Phillips. In addition to the other jobs, yes, but that is the crown project for this county in the next year or two. He has outlined all the things that he wanted. I sat in on the interview. Lieutenant Phillips has the character, the experience to be qualified as your next sheriff. I unequivocally endorse him to be your next sheriff and be elected next fall. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes business from the public. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Madam Chair, move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, the consent calendar is approved. And now we come to Commissioners' liaison reports. Commissioner Sullivan?
I have no reports tonight, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Webb?
I have nothing yet.
Oh, it's going to be a short meeting. Commissioner Thompson?
Well, okay, so I'll pick up some slack here. We're still working on the child care task force and looking about whether it should be termed the child care and education task force, looking at defining how do we meet the needs of our community's children, because it's critical. So that has the capable support of Jennifer Purcell from Regional Solutions out of the Governor's Office, and Amy Lovelace from the Early Learning Hub. Dan Gaffney is also involved as a subject matter expert. We have 2 community members as the co-chairs of that, so that's moving along beautifully. Tomorrow is Colpack and Northwest Act, and we'll be meeting in Astoria. I understand there's a prospective traffic, in Portland we used to call them traffic calming exercises, a familiar phrase. But it would mean that what ODOT is considering is having one through lane of traffic in each direction and a designated passing lane through Gearhart as a way of managing traffic, because it gets pretty crazy there. I understand from ODOT staff that tickets are written for speeds in excess of 70 miles an hour, which is in a 45 or 40 mile an hour zone. We have a lot of people coming through Clatsop County in terms of our local folks, in terms of our local commerce, in terms of tourism. So how do we manage the increased traffic volume safely? And we'll be looking at that tomorrow afternoon, as well as other economic development issues. We are headed next week, some of us, to the Association of Oregon Counties annual meeting. And Clatsop County has a candidate to run for second vice president, because I'm doing that, because if we look at how to have visibility, credibility, and effectiveness going to the Association of Oregon Counties and working with our colleagues there is an excellent way to do that. It helps us collaborate around the state with other judges and commissioners. It helps us advocate more effectively for our people and our programs going there. I noticed that Clatsop County has had only one other president of AOC, and that was in 1970. That's almost 50 years ago, speaking of seasoning. So, we'll see what happens. There's another candidate running. Whether we do or we don't, it gives us a chance to come together with our colleagues in a conference where we look at issues from all over Oregon. We can talk about what Clatsop County has to offer. We can talk about what Clatsop County needs, and hopefully we'll do ourselves and our people and our place proud. So that's, the only other thing is we're still talking about water in my neighborhood. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Quila?
I wish Commissioner Thompson good luck in the election. And I don't have anything to report.
Okay. I attended the Human Services Advisory Council. Shelley Ann Winans from VOCA, Victory Over Child Abuse, gave a presentation. Council gave, with the Human Services Advisory Council, gave a grant with the approval of the Board of Commissioners, and VOCA received a $1,600 grant. VOCA has just had their 30th camp.
Wow.
Their dairy cost alone was $1,500. So this doesn't even quite, this just barely covered the dairy costs. And then they have all the food costs. Due to the children being abuse survivors, food is made available 24/7 at the camp. Often the children, 15 to 17 years old, have issues with food, maybe not enough food, or food being withheld as punishment. VOCA has the premise that healing is possible and trust can be restored with adults due to close association with adults at the camp, because adults are primarily the abusers. Clatsop County has a high incidence of child sexual abuse. The camp, they have a songbook that have songs to build up confidence and teach the campers about how to heal and learn valuable skills. Support at the camp is paramount and model how to ask for help. And a video was presented. In 1988 was the establishment of VOCA, and it's one of still only a few camps that even exist like this. This is the closest thing to counseling that many children ever receive. VOCA was intended to be a supplement for counseling. Clatsop County used to have the worst statistics for child sexual abuse, and there has been some improvement, but the county is still among the highest in the state. The camp is free, based on volunteers and grants. 2 camps are held each year, one for boys and one for girls. They showed a video with a 17-year-old well-spoken girl named Jasmine. She spoke about her many years of VOCA camp experience. She said the support, love, and consistency she's received at the camp has been the most important aspect of her healing. Amy Baker, this is moving on, Amy Baker had a counteroffer from Gobi about the respite center of $1.5 million, which really wasn't a counteroffer because I think that's the original, that's what they want, is $1.5 million. So that's very disappointing. Taxpayer money went into this acquisition and remodel of the building at the respite center. So hopefully it can be worked out. A report, Helping Hands served 8,500 meals last year, and they're on track to serve 14,000 this year in association with the food bank and the Helping Hands folks. Because the kitchen at Helping Hands has been updated with the help from Peter Roscoe with their cold storage, this can be used also by the food bank. Helping Hands requires 10 hours per week for each person to volunteer in the community. Our county health department is very progressive and ahead in the state on many fronts with STI prevention, household hazardous waste, tobacco prevention, and vaping. And the state is supportive of what our staff is doing with tobacco prevention, and they want to help. Place matters will be in May. The place we live impacts our health. And justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, JEDI, it's a good acronym, will be the focus. And tentatively, it will be held at the Seaside Convention Center. County Manager's report.
Just real quickly, Commissioners, just wanted to remind the public that the November 27th meeting has been canceled, and so the next regular board meeting will be December 11th. So besides that, just a quick for your information regarding a conversation that I had with Steve Greenwood from the National Policy Consensus Center at Portland State University. They did a civic leadership academy over at City of Hillsborough that was very successful. It's a community leadership academy, and the whole goal is to take residents and to expose them to government processes, to develop leaders to participate on advisory boards and commissions, and eventually even run for Board of Commissioners. So we're the first in line to participate in this program. And so the details are still being worked out, but what we hope to do is bring this program here and have a leadership, community-based leadership training. So just wanted to throw that out, so.
That would be all ages?
It's all ages, so.
Wahoo.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, now we move on to our business agenda. Beginning on page 108. The purchase and removal of the Jones Dock and Napa Dock. We have staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. So we're asking for your approval this evening to enter into a contract with Vincent Brothers Construction, or VB Construction, for the purchase and removal of the Napa Dock and the Clifton Dock, or the Jones Dock, excuse me. As we discussed, the docks are in disrepair. They're not maintained anymore. They're not used any longer for any type of an industrial use, in which that's what their purpose was. And so we need to remove them. We've had our attorney encourage us to do this for many years, and we've had our risk management as well as our insurance company that asks us to remove these docks. So that's it.
Are there any questions for staff? No?
Madam Chair, is it time to make a motion? I move that the board approve award of contract for dock purchase and removal in the amount of $15,697.78 to Vincent Brothers Construction, and authorize the county manager to sign the contract and any amendments. Second.
Second that.
Whoever.
Hope we're fighting over the second.
No, yours if you want it.
Okay. It has been moved that the board approve award of contract for dock purchase and removal in the amount of $15,697.78 to Vincent Brothers Construction, and authorize the county manager to sign the contract with any amendments. Is there discussion?
I just wanted to thank the staff for their extensive research on this and diligence on bringing this to get this taken care of, and I appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the question is on the adoption of the motion to move that the board approve award of contract for dock purchase and removal in the amount of $15,697.78 DeVinson Brothers Construction and authorize the county manager to sign the contract and any amendments. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes.
Commissioner Webb?
Yes.
Commissioner Aquila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebeker?
Aye.
May I make one more comment? I'd like to make a comment to Nicole Bales, her excellent front page article on this topic, and just did a good job. And I think it shows, too, how important having a community newspaper in a town that can help spread the news about the items and issues that face all of us in this county. And I know that I'm very grateful that we do have a functioning community newspaper, and I just wanted to say a shout out to Nicole, who comes and sits in these meetings, and good job. Thank you.
As we're throwing kudos around, I'd say to our county council, Heather Reynolds, thank you for your perseverance in finally getting this accomplished.
Was this on your bucket list? Good point, Commissioner Aquila.
Okay, so we have the votes. There are 5 in favor, none against. The motion is passed. Now we move on to page 123, appointment of the sheriff to serve until the certification of the November 2020 general election.
Chair Nebeker, would you like me to just to give a brief overview?
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
who is this guy?
You don't recognize him without the uniform.
Yeah.
Just real quickly, as Lieutenant Phillips comes up, Sheriff Tom Bergen notified your board that he plans to retire effective January 3rd of 2020. And so by charter, your board appoints a sheriff to serve until the certification of the primary election. And so Sheriff Bergen had recommended Lieutenant Phillips to be that candidate for your appointment, and you had the opportunity to interview the lieutenant last week, I believe it was. And so today is your opportunity to make an appointment, and of course, the lieutenant's here to answer any questions that your board might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? I know we asked many questions
We
last
asked
week.
many questions. I'm ready to make a motion if anyone
I
else.
wish I could make the motion, but I'm the chair, so I can't.
I'm just wondering if candidate Phillips would like to speak to, has anything you'd like to say?
Well, sure. It was very humbling tonight to hear the words of support from Sheriff Reichel and Mr. Spence, and especially meaningful from Sheriff Reichel because it is the way that he ran business at the sheriff's office that I respected so much that made me think that maybe that's something that I would want to do one day. And I'd like to say that I recognize the trust and the faith that you're placing in me to be the sheriff, because the office of sheriff is a weighty responsibility and one that can have a significant impact on the community. So it's my pledge that I will work hard and make sure that our sheriff's office is one that everyone can be proud of.
And we know that you know what needs to be done because you have so much experience. And we also know you have your work cut out for you, but we believe that you will meet the challenges.
Thank you.
It's very emotional. It's very sweet. Sometimes this is a really good job. Thank you for providing that moment.
Well, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that the board appoint Lieutenant Matt Phillips to the position of sheriff.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the board appoint Lieutenant Matt Phillips to the position of sheriff. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the question is that the board appoint Lieutenant Matt Phillips to the position of sheriff. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Webb?
Yes.
Commissioner Aquila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebeker?
Aye. 5 in favor, none against. The motion is passed. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And would you like to have your family come up and have a photo?
Sure, thank you.
And do you want our commissioners in there, too?
Well, we want
Okay.
photographs. First the family, then the politicos, okay?
Let's have the family come up first.
Let's have the family come up.
Hi, Bree. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
It's a pleasure. You know, what a good guy. Yes, absolutely. Nice to meet you.
An important part of this appointment.
This is so sweet, isn't it? This just makes me want to cry.
You've got a good dad. Nice to meet you,
You
too.
have a wonderful in your in our community.
Nice to meet you. Jack? Nice to meet you, Jack.
Let's see, we'll get.
And get the commissioners, maybe.
Well, let's take one more picture when everybody's relaxed, all right? Jack? And Kathleen springs in action.
Mother is here, too.
Well, come on up here. There we go. Over 10 is a little bit warmer here than it is.
Thank you.
Now, let's get the commissioners up here. Who's in charge of the photographs, right?
Yeah, we got you.
Jack?
Watch out. Aunt Kathleen is still.
Really, she doesn't like to be up here, I guess. She's always,
A hospitality director.
yeah, I know. Yes, that's right.
Kathleen, you should do this for a living, you know?
I wish I could after this one.
Okay, next we come to good of the order.
No,
All right.
can't top that.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
After almost a year is sitting in this position, we've had some wonderful meetings and some meetings with all kinds of different issues before us, and I think tonight was my favorite night in the year that I've been on this commission. Just wanted to say that. Sometimes we get to do really good things.
And I think we might be setting a record for the
That's
shortest
why it's
meeting.
my favorite night, too. My favorite night as well.
If there's nothing further,
That's it.
meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.